So we are here today with John Fulgenzi, who is seeking another term for the Ward 4 seat on the Springfield City Council in the April 2nd election. We appreciate you being here today, and we invite you to start by providing an opening statement that lets voters know who you are and why you are seeking another term.
Thank you. Basically, I'm a lifelong North Ender. My wife and I have lived in the North End for too many years to mention, but we raised our 3 boys in the North End, sent them to various public and private schools, Griffin, Lanphier, Ursuline Academy, Washington. So we've got a sampling of all the various educational backgrounds. And we've been very avid in the North End sports. But the thing that I'd like to emphasize is that we've got a lot of things still to go on the North End. We started 4 years ago with we passed the North End TIF, the Peoria Roads, and Route 66 TIF. Recently, we just got a site-specific TIF for LS Lumber. And one of the things that the North End needs, or actually all the gateways to the city need, is refurbished. The North End is probably one of the worst. I hate to say that because I'm out there and it's something we've been pushing for. One of the things I've been able to accomplish is buying grappling trucks for the city, various other equipment. I sponsored an ordinance to get $500,000 out of the gaming fund in order to buy more equipment. And I'd like to be able to continue those things.
Okay, excellent. So guys, tell us, what's been the most challenging part about being an alderman on the city council?
Getting a majority on the council to agree to things that you want. That's always been a challenge, I think, for everybody. It was when I was on the county board. And but we got certain things accomplished. You know, the health department was a big factor. You know, but now we've just got to continue some of the things. The sewer problem is the biggest thing I think that's facing our city now, and especially on the North End. No one likes to raise sewer rates. But somehow we've got to do something to fix the sewers. And we're going to be mandated to fix them before long. And it's upwards of a $40 million project. And there's no money there for it, so unless we get some money from the state or federal government.
Where would that mandate be coming from?
The EPA.
Okay.
The EPA has a study underway now, and we're waiting to get the results back from it that says what we have to do, because we have too many combination sewers. And in heavy rains, they overflow into the sanitary system and they completely flood it out. And it's a big problem.
So remind me, when, and I may be mistaken, but as I recall, when you were first elected, there was some sort of conflict of interest or licensing, liquor licensing?
Liquor licensing.
Can you explain how that played out and how's that working out?
Well, when I ran for office, we heard that was a problem. So we checked with the state, and they said, if you're an alderman, you just can't vote for liquor ordinances. Well, what we found out was that after I was elected, the city hadn't adopted the state ordinances. But whoever was the attorney at the time, and I don't remember his name, came to me when I was going through an orientation, and he said, we're going to solve that problem, and the city council is going to adopt the state ordinances and bring us up to date. So at the point of, I haven't been able to enter any discussion or vote on any liquor ordinances, but they've all passed unanimously that I can remember.
And that was because you have a liquor license?
I have a liquor license. Now, people with licenses to sell real estate aren't prohibited from voting on zoning ordinances. There's so many things where people have that conflict of interest, so to speak, right, that they aren't really bothered by, but they had the liquor come up. That was it. I think it was put in there because of the problems in Chicago, and it filtered down to us.
Could have been.
Okay. You just alluded to sewers being an issue for your ward. You mentioned sprucing things up. Are there other pressing, what would you say are the top pressing issues in your ward that you would try to address?
I think the sewers are the top pressing issue.
Okay.
And the sprucing up of Route 66, Peoria Road, is the second most. And the thing that we really need to do is dress up all the gateways to our city. But Peoria Road's been the only one that hasn't been really addressed like some of the other ones have. And if you, I don't know, if you notice how many international visitors we have, but we have quite a few. Since we put in the Mahan gas station at our place, and I would never have believed this if somebody would have told me. We have a book, people sign in, and we've had visitors from all over the world. China, Vietnam, Japan, South America, I mean, France, Spain. You can name a country and they've been there. And I even had a guy pull up on a motorcycle from Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia, and he was traveling the route.
Yeah.
I would never have believed it. But somehow we've got to get these people to stay overnight in Springfield. We have to make it attractive. And we have the 100-year anniversary of Route 66 coming up in 2026, and we need to get ready.
Okay. Looking citywide, one of the pressing issues we'd say facing Springfield is homelessness issue. What happened, last summer at the library. So, what roadblocks do you see in addressing homelessness here in Springfield, and how would you work to solve them to address this issue?
Boy, that's a great question. We've been thwarted by the courts from stopping the homelessness, from asking people for money. I was in Los Angeles 10 years ago, and the homeless over there, they have a tent set up every 10 feet all around a block. And eventually, I think it may come to that here. But the thing of it is, somehow we have to figure out a way to get them inside. But they have the right to stay outside. And in some cases, they don't want to go inside. And Juan Hewitt has done a great job with the city getting the warming shelters up, getting people to go inside. The city police have gone out and got people to go inside. Just recently we had an initiative to put scarves and coats and stuff out on the old state capitol, and that worked rather well. But it's just not a thing that you can have people camp out at your public library. But I don't know what the answer is. If someone has an answer, believe me, we'd listen to everything, because the homeless, in a lot of cases, doesn't want to go in, doesn't want to be cared for. They want to do their own thing. And I think mental health is the biggest issue there. And we have to get them, we have to educate ourselves basically on mental health, but I don't know what we do.
Have you been supportive of the library director's efforts?
Oh, yeah.
He's
Will
brought.
Hearn is,
yeah.
he's leaving, but
Yeah.
but he's been very good. One of the things that I suggested to him when he first came to town is maybe starting a chess club. You know, it doesn't involve a lot of things. People can play chess anywhere, and once they get involved in it, it's something that captivates them. I know going to Florida one year when my kids were 4 and 5 and 6 years old, I taught them how to play chess and got a magnetic chess set, and they were quiet all the way down there and all the way back. So it's something that captivates their mind.
We would argue the need for economic development is another huge issue for the city that needs to be addressed. This edit board has thought there's been some projects the past few years that might have helped that out. The bamboo company that wanted to build by the lake, the Ferguson building.
The what?
The company that the gentleman who wanted to take the old Marina area by the lake and for his bamboo company, and then the Ferguson building project. I guess explain to us your votes on those projects and your reasoning behind them.
Well, the Ferguson building project was the biggest vote I think that we had, and it was voted down by the council. I voted for it. Probably my thinking on it was, I don't know how the unions are going to get paid their money, their back pay, their benefits without that project going through, but somehow and leaving the TIF in place, the TIF promise, really didn't amount to anything.
Yeah.
He had already blown past all the safeguards for the TIF and all the things that he needed to do, and all it was symbolic, I think, at the time. And right now we've got an empty building sitting there, and before we might have had somebody trying to get some money, with whether he could or couldn't, I don't know. But that's neither here nor there now, but I'd like to see somebody go along and finish that project. I think it's a great project. It's ill-conceived and probably not the best person to run it. And obviously, he left a lot of things on the table that he should have taken care of.
Okay.
And then the development of the old marina out on the lake.
Well, that was something that and I'm not a lake person per se, but the lake people themselves absolutely didn't want the lake marina. Or they didn't want it there anyway. And when there's 500 or 600 people saying we don't want it, and they're the ones that make up the majority of the lake, it's pretty impactful. And the alderman for that area led the charge against it. So you'd think that he would know his situation better. And I think it's all been torn down now, and they're starting to redevelop that into homes. And the truth of the matter is, he could probably have put that business anywhere and make it go if it was described properly. If he told us what kind of business it was, they didn't really need the lake setting in order to make that business thrive. As far as other economic development, one of the things I was able to do was bring LS Lumber to town on a targeted TIF. And for those of you that aren't familiar with targeted TIFs, it only involves that one section of property, because the other people around there necessarily didn't want it. And so it's probably 80,000 square foot building that's going to be rehabbed. He's going to put about $1.5 million to $2 million into it. Maybe bring 20 to 30 people to work there, and probably do somewhere between 20 and $25 million worth of sales.
Were you supportive of the Economic Development Corporation has started. The city is contributing quite a bit of money to it. Is that something you were supportive of, that money?
I was always supportive of that.
What do you see as the benefits of the Land of Lincoln Economic Development Corporation?
It depends on how they end up with it, but the point of it is you have to get somebody working for the county and the city as a whole. You have to bring somebody here that's interested in developing projects. And somebody has to point out the good and the value of the city. And a lot of people are out there tugging at their purse strings for what to do for various corporations and so forth. We need to do the same thing for the city. We need to show them what they can get out here. We've got a lot of skilled workers in this area and great educational possibilities. One of the things that I was talking to some people about starting up educational benefits of is target the businesses in this area like LRS and as an example and other places and see what they need as far as educated people and teach a course that's similar to that. I mean, we've already got it with the hospitals and things like that, with the nursing, various SIU programs that contribute to that. But we need to get the businesses on hand. We've got insurance companies in town that may need the IT people, and that's getting to be a very big thing. We need to target them and get some people interested in those areas.
Do you think the city should continue providing financial support to the EDC? I mean,
oh yeah.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay. I asked because that came at that request came when the budget was not in great shape. You don't necessarily have that problem this budget year going into it.
This budget year seems pretty good so far.
Compared to the last two, absolutely. The council did have to, in the past couple of years, they approved some tax increases to help fill some of that revenue shortage. So we would like to just give you, as an incumbent member of council, a chance to explain why you voted the way you did on those tax increases.
Well, I felt that the city needed more revenue. One of the things that we noticed on the tax increases is that we have one of the lowest real estate taxes compared to other cities in our area. And we're about in the mid-range or right below a lot of the cities for all the other taxes. We need the telecom tax to support the library. We need the gas tax to the natural gas tax. All of those taxes seem to fit in where we needed them at the time. Nobody likes to pay more taxes, and I'm one of them. But along with the sewer tax, it's something that we need to look at. We need to keep our city viable.
Okay. You brought it. Oh, go ahead.
And make it attractive for people to come here.
You mentioned the real estate taxes, and the city doesn't really adjust. You know, the mayor is always talking about it's been 3 decades since the city has adjusted its property tax rate. I believe its share of the income or property taxes. The city hasn't changed it in years. Right. Do you support that philosophy of leaving it the same?
Well, I'd have to show a need to have the sales taxes go. I mean, the real estate taxes go up. We've raised all the other taxes to where we can, at the top of where we probably need to be, but. We've got enough money to keep the city going. It's just what we don't need to do is raise them to the point where people are just, especially with now we've got another 1% sales tax that the schools are taking into account. But one of the things that helps the city out as far as being vibrant, or the county as a whole too, is good schools.
Yeah.
That's the basis of all things.
I agree with that.
as Kate mentioned, the city's financial situation has stabilized somewhat this year, and there don't seem to be as many crises this year as before. What other ways, as a member of council, do you work to keep the city's finances stable?
Well, one of the things we worry about is we just recently signed the fireman's contract. We closed that end of it up with about a 1.5% raise every year. So that's pretty level, and we seem to have that under control. We just need to sign the police union, and we need to figure out something to do with the pensions. One of the things that I was looking at, and I mentioned this to the mayor and other people, is somehow take some money out of gaming. You know, we get about $1.5 million a year in gaming. Now it's used to bolster the infrastructure for public works, and I propose taking $500,000 out of there to fund some purchase of equipment for public works, where we'd have more trucks for snow removal, a grappling truck that we desperately needed for tree removal, and that was one of the things that we got out of there that we needed. But we still need more on that, and it could be that the gaming could be a thing that will save us in the future. The problem we have is the method of counting that the state uses to say that our pensions are underfunded. Until they revised their method of accounting, the pensions weren't underfunded. So it's just a matter of an accounting thing on the state. So we'll have to see. I mean, we have to do something about it.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no getting around the fact that all of the income revenue from property taxes, right,
is already eaten up.
Yeah.
Every bit of it goes towards the pensions.
Right.
But every city's in the same boat, it seems like. We're not alone in that respect. But that doesn't excuse it. We have to figure out a way to make it work.
Some numbers show that the city of Springfield has a lot more police and fire than other cities the same size. Would that have an impact?
Well, I've seen that. But the fire department, for example, has about 4 or 5 fire districts that it's responsible for. So in total square miles of area that they're responsible for, it's more than the cities that have less firemen.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of and it's a class 1 rating now. So if we want to lower that rating, and I think they do a good job.
Agree. All right, moving on to one of the, I guess a hot topic here is, what do you think should go on the Y block?
Well, I voted for the park. I thought that was a great idea at the time, because my grandkids, when we go down to Disney, or when we went down to Disney 10 years ago, they loved playing with those fountains. And I could see a lot of kids coming here from other areas playing in the fountains and attracting visitors. But now that they've established there may be an interest in the Y block for schools, I think that would be a great thing, because it would bring people downtown, and then we could use the parking ramp. They're going to have to tear that down, the one at 4th and Adams, and maybe build some apartments there. So all in all, I think if we could possibly put an SIU medicine, School of Medicine there, that like Senator Menard has proposed, and then UIS is also looking at something. So whatever comes first, I guess.
Okay. You brought up Senator Menard, so the legislature. There's how would you describe the relationship between the city of Springfield and being the state capital? You know, I think there can be maybe a negative perception of Springfield because of, you know, people elsewhere in the state, well, that's just Springfield, how it works. And they mean the legislature, they don't mean the city, but that perception is there. So how would you describe that relationship?
Well, I think the legislature is going to be the legislature no matter where they're at. And as far as the city being able to get along with them, I think that anything we can do to get more amenable things out of the legislature for the city is a good thing. So whether they're Republican or Democrat at the time, the thing we have to look at is what's good for the city and go from there.
Are there specific things that you think you'd like to see come out of the General Assembly?
Well, you know, I think this thing about the $50 million for SIU is a good thing. I can remember when Governor Blagojevich diverted $20 million that we had set aside for the bike trails and stuff like that in the city, and he redid Capitol Avenue with it. So I'm not sure that was a great thing, but Capitol Avenue does look better, and maybe when the high-speed rail gets done, we can we'll have an overpass that's a parkway through the city, and who knows? You know, there are good and bad points to just about everything.
So another hot topic of late is should Capital Township be merged, and if so, with the city or the county?
Well, first of all, I think all townships should be merged. I'm not in favor of townships in general. I think they could be absorbed by the county. It just seems like all those levels of government are, I know that there are some people that think that, well, they're closer to me, I can get them to do things or whatever, but somehow we have to adapt everything else in order to fit those needs. But there's a lot of money being consumed by townships that isn't necessary. For example, the amount of roadway equipment that they purchase. If that was diverted to the county, they would need maybe a lot less of that equipment to handle the same problems. Now, the county would have to ramp up their county highway department to do it, but I think it's all of it, and they can do that. Let's put it that way.
To clarify, that would be if all townships were abolished.
All townships
not
abolished.
just
Now,
if
as
Capital.
far as
Okay.
now, as far as specifically talking about Capital, even though I'm in the city, I think it ought to probably go to the county, and because they're already doing everything except the road work, and somehow they need to subsidize the city for the road work they're doing. But they're already doing everything else. But then again, you'd have to have the legislature do something to make it to where the county can take it over. So it's, I guess it's a big political game.
Yeah.
At different times, the mayor suggested that the city should annex the fairgrounds. You're right close by there. What do you think of that?
Well, the mayor and I have talked about that a lot, and I don't see any problem with them annexing the fairgrounds, except it's in terrible shape. As long as we don't have to take over all the liability, you know, we just get the good parts of it. I think that's a great thing.
Sounds like a deal.
Sounds like
Yeah,
a good negotiation.
but we've got to worry about the sewers, the water, the electrical, all that stuff that's underground. I think would have to go with the annexing body. Now the buildings and the roadway on the inside of the fairgrounds, outside of the 8th Street corridor, because that's basically a city road now. You know, it's not a city road, but it would be
Right.
as far as
Extended.
yeah, and the thing we have to worry about is would we take over the sewers, the electrical, and the water? And I don't know. It's,
So what would the advantage be to that?
well, the advantage would be about $240,000 or $50,000 worth of taxes that they would get off of the events that are held throughout the year.
Okay.
And we could maybe certainly designate some of that money to the state to help fix the infrastructure, go to the Fair Foundation. But it seems like they're starting to at least recognize the fact that they have a gem there. They have to do something because the city, for example, relies on a lot of the events there for overnight stay in the city. I know the horse shows, for example, when we lost 4 or 5 major horse shows. Those don't come back very easily. And all the barns need to be rehabilitated. The Coliseum is now being done, so that's good. And Governor Pritzker showed with the what you can do with the Expo building when he did his inauguration. I mean, I don't know how much money he spent to overdo it, but the whole building was transformed into a major event.
It didn't look like the Expo building.
No, it didn't. You know,
That's for sure.
Because my granddaughter worked there with a place, someplace out of Sherman, I think. They cleaned up a lot of the glasses and so forth, you know. And she says the only time I've been paid to watch Maroon 5, you know.
Okay.
But,
Real quickly, because I know we're running out of time, you alluded to this before, and you're kind of in a unique position to see this with tourism. How is the city doing with leveraging its attractions, and you know what could the city be doing more to promote tourism?
Well, actually, the mayor called me this morning and told me about some grants that Scott Dahl is going to be applying for to get some kind of signage so we can put it on the railroad underpass on 9th Street to designate that as Route 66, something that will show it up. And it will actually be a place, you'll be surprised how these people come to town and they look for anything with Route 66 on it.
It's amazing.
'Cause they're from France.
Yeah.
You know, wow, you know, it's just something that's, to us is just, we don't think about it. But from France or Spain or Portugal or all these different places, they are amazed by it. And I think that anything we can do to us, like for example, the donut sign. I know we caught a lot of heat for buying that sign, but you'd be surprised how much that is going to impact the Route 66 visitors from overseas. I don't know who it was that was over there, but they went over there to promote Lincoln, or they were talking about Lincoln. And the one thing they found out is that everybody was interested in Route 66.
Yeah.
You know, that was the #1 topic of discussion. And I wish I'd have brought the book that has all the visitors signed up in it, you know, and it's amazing.
Okay.
I would never have believed, I mean, we've got the gas station. It's probably the oldest gas station on Route 66, the Mahan station. And my son bought it and set it at our place. I would never have believed that many people would come here from overseas specifically to, I mean, this isn't the only thing they looked at, but specifically to look, they wanted to see the gas station. I mean, it's a metal shed. It dates back to 1917. But to me, it just, I would not have believed that would be the thing they'd look for. But we've got international visitors that come here in droves.
They do.
We need to get them, figure out how to keep them overnight. Get those tourism dollars. Because if they've got enough money to come to Springfield from overseas, they've got enough money to spend in town.
All right. And at that, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
No, we've got some things coming up in Roadwork and things like that, but I think next year they're going to overlay Maiden Avenue from interurban to the bypass,
Okay.
or from Dixon Parkway to interurban, and I think that'll be a big thing. It'll make it a lot nicer. It'll be a lot like Piper Road.
Okay. Well, then we just would invite you to give a closing statement, kind of your elevator pitch as to why voters in your ward should help you prevail on Election Day.
Well, just for everything I've said, we've got a lot more to work on. We've got the sewers definitely need done, and we need to enhance the gateway to our city from the north. And the thing that I've never been able to conquer yet is Sangamon Avenue in Dirksen. That's one of the worst intersections in the state, and somehow they need to redo that. The traffic turning left or turning north from the west onto Dirksen Parkway is terrible. It really backs everybody up. It's impossible. They need a double turn lane there, or they need to come back about a half a mile and go through the old Dawson property with another roadway to divert the traffic. And probably with the enhancement of Maiden, there'll be a lot of people using Piper Road to Maiden to get out onto Dirksen. And that'll be one of the avenues.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your time today. Thanks for coming in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.